Good evening and welcome to Metro Focus. I'm Rafael P. Roman. Over the past year, the crumbling state of New York City's subway system has become impossible to ignore. Delays, always a part of life, and a system that serves 5.7 million riders a day have gone from an occasional inconvenience to an almost daily occurrence, leaving New Yorkers angry, frustrated, and searching for answers. It all reached a boiling point over the summer when a number of high-profile incidents, including 2 derailments, prompted Governor Andrew Cuomo to declare the system in a state of emergency. The governor brought back Joe Lhota to lead the MTA, promising a sweeping plan to fix the subways. But the question remains, how did New York City wind up with one of the worst-performing mass transit systems in the world? Now, an extensive New York Times report provides concrete answers. The blockbuster investigation lays out mismanagement and bad decisions by political leaders of both parties, stretching back decades. It describes how basic repairs were put off in favor of flashy new projects, how the MTA was stripped of funds by both the city and the state, and how the transit union was given generous new contracts even amid budget shortfalls. The report seems to be making waves where it counts, with MTA Chairman Lhota saying that after reading the article, he told himself that this was exactly the reason he had come back. And joining me now is New York Times investigative reporter Brian Rosenthal, one of the reporters who contributed to the piece. Brian, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
So, Brian, everyone has a theory as to why the subways are in such terrible disrepair. How did you go about finding a detailed answer to that? What did you look at?
Well, we, at the Times, a team of reporters decided, as the crisis was unfolding, to go to the source and talk to as many MTA officials, both working in the system now and who worked in the system in the past, talking to as many people that interfaced with the system, contractors, experts, advocates, as well as the politicians and political leaders at both the city and state level. So we ended up talking to over 300 people, and basically that was our first question to all of them.
So listen, the usual reason given by the powers that be as to why the subways are crumbling is 1, that it's a really, really old system, and 2, that there's been a dramatic increase in ridership over the last 30 years or so. The article clearly demonstrates that there's more to it than that. What are the fundamental reasons why we've reached this state?
Yeah, so
give us a summary of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, those reasons are part of the equation, but some MTA officials and political leaders have basically acted like there's nothing they could do in the face of those challenges. And there was something that they could have done. They could have invested in the system, maintaining the system, caring for it, replacing parts when they get old. And instead, what we found is a pattern of over and over again, political leaders either taking money away from the system or forcing the system to spend money on things that did not relate to the everyday experience of subway riders. So flashy stations with, soaring ceilings and mirrors, all kinds of...
Give us some concrete examples of that.
Well, the Fulton Street Transit Center is the best example. I mean, that project ended up costing $1.4 billion, which, as we note in the article, is more than the total annual budget for all of Chicago's mass transit system. Was spent on just this one.
And that was Shelley Silver, the former speaker in Albany. That was his pet project.
Right.
And he insisted on it.
In his district. And, the MTA had raised alarm about the cost of that project and wanted to scale it back. And he, Speaker Silver, said, no, this project will be built. But that was just one example. We found lots of examples.
Now, the governor Cuomo also had his pet project. Explain that, tell about that.
Well, he's had lots of different pet projects. One of his most costly one is called the Enhanced Station Initiative, which is $1 billion project to give new lighting and new phone charging ports and countdown clocks at dozens of stations. And it's been criticized because it's, renovating all of these stations, but it's not even making them disability accessible. But it is costing a lot of money that could have been spent on things that would have improved the performance of the system.
So how does the governor justify that? And it's not just him, as the article says, as I said in the introduction, back to Pataki and Giuliani. I mean, they were part of defunding the MTA and spending it in the wrong place. How did they justify these things?
Well, if you talk to them, what they'll say is, the MTA can do both. It can make sure the system is running well, and it can make the system look nicer. They can walk and chew gum at the same time. But what we heard from talking, again, to hundreds of subway workers and contractors and experts and advocates is that they haven't been able to do that. They have neglected the core functions, and that has really led to a lot of the problems that we're seeing. And we actually laid out in the article, we went through somebody's commute and all the delays that were going on, and we were able to pinpoint different decisions, different budget cuts, and different decisions made that had led to all of the problems that the people were experiencing.
You know, one of the things that I think will surprise a lot of New Yorkers is, and it's kind of controversial, is the role that the Transport Workers Union plays in all this. I mean, I think they'll be surprised that the average, tell me if I'm right, that the average subway worker earns $170,000 a year, and then the manager of the subway system, or the MTA, tell me which one, earns $280,000. And these raises and these contracts were negotiated even while maintenance was being cut and while fares were being raised. Justify that.
Well, just to be clear about those numbers, those include salary and overtime and benefits. So
okay, so that makes a difference, yeah.
It does, but it's still a lot of money.
Yeah, how does it compare to other places?
And that's the comparison that we wanted to make. I mean, take subway managers, for example, the $280,000. Elsewhere around the country, subway managers make $120,000 of all those combined. So more
120
than twice
versus
as much.
280, yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, that's not just a handful of people. There are 2,000 people classified as subway administrative workers. Wow. So, I mean, this is a lot of money. And as you point out, it's been raised dramatically in recent years. At the time,
what's the justification for that?
Well, the justification is that these are hardworking people that deserve it. But what we found is that the Transport Workers Union is a very politically connected union. They've donated $200,000 almost to the governor, and they have managed to leverage that power that they have.
So is it possible to transform the system without tackling that dynamic where money goes where political clout resides rather than where it's needed?
I think what we found is that there's a lot more money needed for basic subway maintenance. And where they come up with that money, if it's addressing that issue or addressing the myriad other issues that we found, we kind of didn't prescribe that, but we definitely found in talking with people that more money is needed for those core functions.
So Chairman Lotus says he is going to spend more money, $900 million this year just to fix it. How's that going?
It appears that the Subway Action Plan is starting to have some success. The on-time performance in last month was up to the 70s, which is still the worst in the world, but it's not as bad as being in the 60s. And so,
you mean the 60%, 70% rather than 60%?
Right, yeah. So, talking about the percentage of trains that arrive on time. So it seems like it might be having a little bit of a difference, but clearly a lot of work to do.
All right, well, let's see. Let's hope that happens. Thanks so much, Ryan.
Thank you.